Hello everybody and welcome to Board Game Inquisition, where we are as always fanatical about everything board games. So we don't normally make podcasts. This is a new endeavour for us. And this is mostly due to the fact that I'm kind of sick at the moment and my skin hurts. So it really shouldn't be seen on camera, and it's also a little bit embarrassing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the show won't go on. So we're going to try and do our Inquisitor's Conclave, the monthly roundup of changes to our collection, via podcast for this one night only. And who knows, maybe we'll make more podcasts in future if people find this one particularly entertaining. So how's everybody's month been? I'd look forward to hearing from you guys about the changes you've made to your own collections. What games have people acquired? Have you made any cool trades? What games have been most popular in your group? What have got the most plays? And of course, what are you looking forward to this month? And what's new and exciting, especially with Gen Con just around the corner? So I'm going to start out with the first games we acquired very early in this month, quite literally on the first day of this month. And it was a pretty kind of accidental and exciting adventure, where a nearby board gaming shop were having a sale of some of their catalogue that they had for their board game cafe. And so all games were going to be €10 a piece, and it was kind of a first come, first served affair. So my husband and I made the roughly 4-hour trek to head to Galway to Dungeons and Donuts to go and see what we could kind of get. And they did put out a list before we got there, and they were all kind of games we'd heard of but not really wanted to play. None of them were, stuff we thought we would have wanted ourselves. But the price tag just made it kind of intriguing. So we're like, for a tenner, we would totally try this out. So we kind of made a little short list or whatever. And my granddad actually lives in that part of the world. So I went to visit him while I sent my trusty husband off to the store. And not surprisingly, he was the first one in the queue. I think they have photos of him on their Facebook page, being first in the queue, and getting in there and getting to see what games were available. And inevitably, most of the games we kind of earmarked for stuff that we wanted weren't there at all. And so we ended up coming out with a batch of 5 games. And here is exactly what he acquired. So the first game that I saw in the boot of the car when he came to pick me up, and I was like, what did you get? This is so exciting, was Hit Z Road. So this is a Martin Wallace game. We haven't owned any prior, but he's kind of a big name when it comes to board games, right? You all hear about Martin Wallace. And I took a look at the box and I was kind of excited. It's a zombie survival game, but not kind of how you'd expect. It's incredibly thematic. It's really fun to play. And despite the fact, it comes down to kind of dice rolling and acquisition of items, we still had a great time with it. It isn't the sort of thing we would normally pick up. We don't really do push your luck games here. But this game was a real standout. And in particular, if you look at the box and the components, it's incredibly special. So, Hit Z Road, the first, real big score we managed. So second on the list was one that my husband had picked out and noticed, and I had never heard of, which surprised me a tad because I spend so much time on the internet looking at board games and whatnot. When a new one comes my way that I've not heard of, I'm usually shocked and surprised. So this was called Pyramid Arcade, and it's from Looney Lab Games. And what it is, it's 22 games in one box. Now, hold on a minute. And initially when you get that kind of idea, you think of maybe, those chess sets you saw when you were younger that were also draft sets, and there were also Snakes and Ladders and Ludos and pick-up sticks and, one of those 15 games in one box. And it does have that idea to it, but it doesn't feel the same way. So when you open up the box, it's a bunch of separate components, mostly these gorgeous see-through coloured triangles. And what you do is the rulebook gives you different scenarios on how to use each of these efficiently to build your own game, essentially. And I think it's actually really fascinating. Basically, so far, we've done 6 or 7 of these now out of the 20 odd that are in the book. And each one is a unique little puzzle game, And I have to say, I've really enjoyed it. It's very ingenious. It's very clever. And also, you can build your own games out of these components too, which is really exciting for anybody perhaps that's interested in game design. But every time I open the lid of that box, it's like a world of wonder inside because you just don't know what's going to happen next. And there's so many components we haven't used yet. And I'm like, what could this be for? So definitely super, super exciting. I've been really enjoying that so far. Okay, so next on our agenda was Flick 'em Up. Now, everybody's heard of Flick 'em Up, us included, but we haven't had a dexterity game before, and to be honest, we weren't that interested in having a dexterity game. But you know, when you hear about something enough and enough people seem to enjoy it, you gotta wonder maybe if there's a little bit more to it than you originally thought there was. So, yet again, for a tenner, Flick 'em Up seemed like a great idea, and we were completely surprised with the fact it came in a gorgeous wooden box. Yeah, it's fabulous. And then, of course, you open it up and there's all these pieces of scenery. It's beautiful. So for those of you that don't know, Flick 'em Up is a dexterity game set in the Wild West. And you and your opponent have 5 little guys, and you have to like flick your bullets around to knock people down and to eventually kill them. The game comes with a bunch of terrain and lovely like scenery and shops and things like that to make your life slightly more difficult. And the rulebook comes with a set of scenarios for you to play with. So we have only pulled this out once or twice so far, but we were really surprised by not only how thematic the game is, but also how well put together the rules were. We'd expected it to be some kind of, free-for-all where people just flicked everything everywhere. All the bits were going to end up on the floor and the dog was going to eat some. This is kind of the world we'd envisioned for Flick 'em Up. When in reality, there's very specific ways that you have to flick. There are very specific ways of performing all of your actions, and there was actually a lot more rules and depth to this than I had ever given it credit for. And also, it's a hell of a lot of fun. we had a great time playing this, just the two of us. And I think it could be even better the more people you have. And especially if you're an imaginative sort, to be able to kind of come up with your own scenarios, I think this game could really surprise a lot of people. So, Flick 'em Up, so good. Okay, the next on the list is Rum and Bones. Now, Rum and Bones is a game from Simon Games, where you and your opponent have a pirate ship each, and you're trying to destroy pieces of each other's pirate ship. So, it being a Simon game, it comes with tons of models. But we kind of like the idea of the pirate theme, and yet again, this is something we normally wouldn't have picked up for ourselves. It's our first Simon game, actually. And when we played it, we were kind of like, I was kind of surprised by how much fun it was. The way it works is that you've kind of waves of mobs that that continually move kind of without your input, and you're in charge of a number of pirate captains on your ship. So that took a lot of the hassle out of having to move each individual model and worry about what they were doing, because they decided for themselves, and you just got to play the cool heroes. Now, we found the game ran a little bit long, and I was kind of like, while we started out with it being really fun, it didn't feel half as fun about halfway through. But then, of course, you realise that Rum and Bones is the first iteration of the Rum and Bones games. There has since been a newer version, Second Tide, I believe it's called. So we went and we looked up the rules just to see what was different in it. And they really tightened it up, and they really kind of fixed everything that I felt was wrong with the game. So we printed out the rules and we printed out the new characters just to try it out with the set we had. And we were much more impressed. The game was much quicker. It feels much more fluid. So apparently what Simon are going to do is that there's going to be kind of a pack that allows you to upgrade your old version of Rum and Bones to the new one. But we haven't really heard any news about that yet, so I'd be interested to see more. But for now, we're kind of quite happy to play with the proxied up rules and the extra character sheets. But it is actually a pretty fun game. I keep saying I was surprised by this. Well, the truth is I hadn't really got a bunch of expectations for it. But it was definitely enjoyable, very thematic, and it was good. It was really good. So last on our list of games that we acquired from Galway, you could tell we acquired a lot of games, is something we already owned, and it was Chinatown. And as far as we're aware, Chinatown is out of print at the moment, especially here in Europe. So we were like, there would be absolutely zero harm in acquiring another copy of Chinatown to trade for. And there'll be more on that later in the trade section. Okay, so this was the first big, board game extravaganza of the month after us saying we weren't going to buy any more games. But when a good deal comes your way, I'm kind of an intuitive gamer like that. I feel like if there's an opportunity here and it's something we wanted to play or we're kind of interested in, why not go for it? Which is why I end up buying a lot of games that aren't actually on my wish list. But just because kind of opportunity presents itself, and it's difficult enough to buy board games around here in Ireland, or to get what specific ones you want. We don't have any huge stores, or, kind of with up-to-date games, and it's so when you get the chance to get something, we jump at it, because paying shipping for anything here is also expensive. Okay, so much later in the month, and here's me after complaining about, our lack of board game stores. The truth is we do have one good board game store, and it's about an hour's drive away. Conveniently, it's located next to a beach and a delicious coffee shop that make the best breakfast sandwich ever. So some Saturday mornings we'll head to the beach and maybe the board game shop, which is called Happy Go Lucky, and it's fantastic. And so my husband happened to be down there for work, and of course, when you're near the board game shop, you have to go look, right? And so kind of started the saga of what we're calling of the epic board games of the month. So my husband happened to be there, and I told him to have a look around, see if there was anything that was interesting or exciting. And then he sends me a photo of Lisboa strapped into our car seat in our car, and I flipped out. As many of you know, or who follow along in these monthly roundups, Lisboa is the game that has taunted me and excited me for so long. It's so ridiculously unfair how much I kind of wanted it but knew I could never have it, because it's way too expensive a game for just the two of us to be playing. And also it's just, I don't know, something's just out of your reach. So I was really shocked that he picked it up. Really, really shocked. And of course I was over the moon and flipped out about it. And you know what? It lives up to all the hype, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say Lisboa is a big game. And it looks complex, but you know what? When you get into it, it isn't really. It's just a matter of learning where everything is and how everything works. So it comes with kind of a bunch of helper aids to teach you how to get into the game. It's aware of how big it is and how intimidating it might be. And I found a lot of those actually to be really, really helpful. Like our first game took us about 4 hours, because what we did was we'd read the rules and we watched the video. But then I went through each possible action I could do till I could learn, exactly how everything worked. So every time we did something, we looked it up, and then we were like, right, that's how we do that. And then we moved on. But I have to admit, we really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait to pull it down again. I've also heard it's got a solo mode. How exciting is that? Although I can't imagine me sitting down with that huge board with all that stuff by myself. I'd probably find it very intimidating. It's gorgeous. It's a really expensive game. I never thought we'd own something that expensive. But you know what? It feels like it too. You don't feel like you've been ripped off. It is incredibly luxe. Everything has that kind of extra sheen or specialty. It is truly an outstanding game, and I'm looking forward to playing more games of it. I can't wait. Just need a little bit more time than normal for gaming. Okay, so next on the list, yet again, is from the Happy Go Lucky store. This is from the following week, because my husband noticed when he went to get Lisboa that they'd finally got Terra Mystica in stock. And of course, at this point we've already spent our board game budget. This is getting silly. So I spent the week trying to find a way to afford Terra Mystica. So we agreed to sell some of our current games, and we headed back to the store to get Terra Mystica. And I was freaking out, because yet again, this is another game that's been on my wish list forever, and it was actually in the store. And of course I got to go back and go to the beach. We love taking our dogs to the beach there. Got a delicious sandwich and a delicious board game. Man, so Terra Mystica, Jesus, wow. That game is everything I wish every game was. It somehow just works in line with, the way my brain works. So Terra Mystica is basically about you kind of spreading out. It seems like your civilization, and you want to have space to grow, but there's benefits for being close to other players. And that in itself is an interesting puzzle. You get this awesome player map that's unique to you, and you get special abilities when you build cities and things like that, depending on what race you are. And there are so many parts of this I can't explain it all, but I think the best part is that each round it tells you exactly what scores this round, and something like that is so special for me because I find it very hard sometimes to focus myself in on what's the important thing to be doing right now, and I love when a game tells me that. So Terra Mystica tells me, this round build cities and you'll get extra points, and I'll go, yes, that's right, Terra Mystica, I will build cities. And I'm like, what do we do next? And like, right, well, if you do such and such, you'll get such and such. And it really, for someone who's like me, who's depressed and gets anxious a lot, and I can find it my head gets very foggy sometimes. The sense of clarity from the game directing me in certain pathways really helped me enjoy it and kind of feel like I was doing well at it. The weird thing is we've only played it twice. I've been sick the past week, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Is that both times we played it, myself and my husband have tied on exactly 110 points. And I was raging because I should have won that first game we played because I totally had him. And I very rarely feel like I'm in control in a game like I do when I play Terra Mystica. It may in fact be my favourite game, and I've written pieces on why I'll never have a favourite game, but Terra Mystica really just, something about it just pinged everything inside my brain and went, this is fantastic. Now, so while we purchased Terra Mystica, still in happy-go-lucky shop in Clonakilty in Cork, Ireland. It's my husband's birthday, or it was last week, so this would have been, the weekend beforehand. My husband is the most amazing human being you will ever meet, and I'm sure everybody says that about their husband, but it's totally true about mine. And he very rarely asks for things, or he very rarely spoils himself, and I really want to spoil him on his birthday. And I was like, is there anything else you want? Why didn't you get something for you? Because I just gotten Lisboa, right? It was ridiculous. It should have been, he should have gotten something for his birthday for himself. And he was like, well, I kind of like the look of Memoir 44. I've been thinking about it for ages. So I shoved him back into the shop. I was like, go, bye now. Get your stuff. This is your turn. So I've Memoir 44. Of course, it's kind of, it's been around a long time now, right? I think it's around 10 years or more. Memoir 44 has been going. So it's a title I'm familiar with. It's obviously to do with war and fighting and stuff. And both myself and my husband have played war games quite a bit. I'd venture to say quite a lot. We've only recently cleared the house of all of the models. We've turned them into board games. And I thought this would be a fun way for us to play war games without needing all of the bits and bobs and the paraphernalia, and that we could just fold it up and put it away. So it was actually the first game we played when we got home from the shop. We're like, okay, come on, we'll try Memoir. And wow, I was super impressed with it. It's, you know what, like, I'm not huge into a war kind of things like that. I'm not I'm not overly historical, but in the way the system is put together is incredibly accessible, right? So the game is obviously, one of you is the Axis, one of you is the Allies, and you play out these scenarios that actually happened in 1944 towards the close of the war, right? So me having my obsessions with Germans, I had to play the Axis, and so my husband played the Allies. And you get all these lovely little men and little tanks, and it sets up lovely on the board. And then to perform actions, you have a hand of cards, and you choose from the actions on those cards. And I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's so functional. And it makes the game very even-keeled. So my husband would normally, out-tactician me, in a moment's notice, right? He's good at all these kind of things in a way I'm not. I can learn how to be tactical. I can learn off certain kind of ways of opening, your war games and stuff like that. But I'm just not kind of, I don't know, I'm not fluid at that kind of thing. So normally this is why war games aren't something we play too often, because he'll just hammer me. So it's no fun for him, kind of, and it's even less fun for me. But this kind of balanced us out a lot, because for once he couldn't, take advantage of all of the possibilities the board offered, because you're limited by what your cards can allow you to do. And for me, I was given all of the options I could do, and I just had to choose between them. And somehow we still had fun. There's some dice rolling, so it's a little bit random. But the way you move your men and stuff like that, I had a really good time. I was so surprised by it. And I actually won our first game, which is even more shocking. We've played it like 3 times in total since, and I'm 2-1 up, which is kind of phenomenal when it comes to war games. But it just goes to show how this lovely kind of simple system, I really think anybody could play this and anybody could enjoy it, regardless of theme or things like that. Or if you don't think a war game is for you, this is a fantastic introduction to try out. Really, like, it's, I suppose, why am I surprised? Days of Wonder do these wonderful introductory games, and why should Memoir 44 really be any different? And I'm sitting here, moving my hands and things like I'm on camera. I have to say, it's kind of nice being able to sit here at my computer and not worry about the glare on my glasses or what it is I'm wearing right now when I talk to you guys about board games. Hopefully I'm not as shockingly bad to listen to as I imagine I might be. And okay, so on to the next lot of games. Okay, so here's where the madness of the month continues. So while we were, picking up Terra Mystica and Memoir 44, the lovely man in the shop, who was giving us a discount at this point because I'm sure we're like, her board game obsession is keeping him in house and home, asked, and he says, oh, it's just any other games, you've been looking to get in, let me know. And I jokingly said, oh yeah, Tolkien, the Mayan calendar. I said, I've been after that for ages, it's very hard to get. And he was like, oh, all right, me being all casual or whatever. So the Monday afterwards, I get a message on Board Game Geek from the store telling me my copy of Tolkien has arrived in the shop. And I couldn't believe it. A, I've never gotten a message from a board game shop before, and B, I was like, I can't afford this game right now. This is shocking information. And I told my husband, I was like, they now know where we live. There's no way for us to escape. And he was like, well, Tolkien, I suppose, isn't that big a game. And he's like, that's really it if we go back to get Tolkien. I'm like, yes, it's really it. I promise. It's really... Yeah, this has been terrible. We sound like, we're made of money. The truth is, my husband and I really don't have any other hobbies. We don't go out. We don't smoke. We don't drink. We don't have any children. And pretty much all of our kind of discretionary money is spent on board games. So it might sound like we buy a ridiculous amount, but we're really... This is our trips to the cinema. This is our night out. All of these things and end up in board games instead. So the following Saturday, we end up going all the way back to Happy-Go-Lucky. We discovered a new beach nearby. It was amazing. The dogs had a fabulous time. Yet again, I had a lovely breakfast sandwich, and I acquired me some Tolkien, the Mayan calendar. Wow. Okay. So all of these games I've gotten this month were ones that were on my wish list, if anybody remembers from like a month or two ago. And it's really weird for me to suddenly actually get things I wanted. I'm kind of not used to that. So Tolkien, it took me like an hour to get around to playing this. And it is this wonderful worker placement game where you're basically kind of getting fame in the temples and feeding your people and gathering resources. I've only played it once so far, so I'm not being very strong here on the theme. But it has this amazing kind of set of dials that are attached to the board, and when you rotate one, all of them rotate. So it goes through the days and things like that. So it is beautiful to behold. You may have seen that people paint up these dials. In particular, Tabletop Polish or Tabletop Polish, I never know which one it is, did beautiful painted kind of Tolkien wheels, and they are phenomenal. But the game itself is really fun. It's actually really straightforward. We had a great time kind of working out. It's like, how do I have enough food to pay for this at this time? And then I want to go up the tracks. It's got beautiful components. It's lovely and put together. And it's very kind of straightforward. I liked how easy it was. I had expected it to be a little bit more thinky. So definitely consider it kind of more of a casual worker placement game. But man, does it impress when it's on the table. So really enjoyed that. And of course, when you want something for ages, you really want it to be good. So I had a lot of high expectations. So it must have been very good. Okay, so what's left? 2 more. Jesus, you'd think this list would never end, right? Okay, so the next one was my husband's choice. So for a while, I've been the one picking out the board games. And you know what? In everything else in our lives, my husband is the one who picks pretty much everything out. So for instance, when we played war games, he'd be the one who come and tell me, oh, a new faction is out and this model does such and such. Or we played Magic the Gathering, he'd be like, the new set's coming up, you want to do this colour, this and that. This is the first time in our relationship where I have known more about something than he does. And and that's of course is board games, because I'm so entrenched in the world at the minute that I'm at least familiar with most things, I have a lot of stuff on my radar. So this was the only board game he kind of chose without kind of me looking into it, and this was Heroes of Land, Air and Sea. And Brian had been looking at this for quite some time, and the Kickstarter was going also not long ago, and he was seriously considering backing it. But it's a very expensive game, like really expensive, like, nearly Lisboa expensive. So, he'd been dubious about spending that much money on himself. So yet again, this being birthday month, I was like, get it for your birthday. This is your chance. And he was going to do the Kickstarter, and he realised, it would be next year sometime before he'd even get his game, which seemed kind of a letdown. And then he said, well, actually, the base game is just suddenly available in shops. So I was like, go for it. This is your chance. You've been talking about this game forever. Go, I assumed he'd done all the research and everything like that. I was like, go and get it and enjoy it. So Here's a Land, Air and Sea arrived, and it is in a ginormous box. Not quite Gloomhaven big, but big. And the first thing we notice is you have to assemble all of your ships and all of your towers all by yourself. So for those of you that don't know, Heroes of Land, Air and Sea is a 4X game. So you want to explore, exterminate, exploit and expand. All of them are written neatly on the box for you to read. And you basically have 4 separate factions, and you build up your stuff and you make men and you go and you do those things. But the fact that, first of all, so for a game this price, how much did we pay for it? It must have been over €100. That you had to assemble kind of all the ships. Some of them have flying bases. There are flying ships. There are water boats and then towers and things like that. So I was firstly shocked that there was this much assembly inside it for the price. I was secondly completely and utterly appalled with the quality of the components and the cardboard that you had to assemble together. It didn't seem to be sealed on top. So every time you had to push a piece of cardboard through another piece, the top layer would rip, which was, the graphic on the outside. So really super unimpressed with that. And then you get them all assembled and you're like, right, where do I store these? Because there's no space in the box for them. They literally just have to get thrown in on top of everything else, which I thought showed a complete lack of foresight, because there was a special kind of storage solutions put in for the other models that come in the box, the plastic ones, but absolutely kind of no concept of what you were supposed to do with all these things you'd built. So you can just put them in on top of the box, right? Meaning the box then has to lie on its bottom as opposed to standing on its side. The box itself is too big, just slightly too big to fit in a collapsed shelf. So well done to whoever designed that. And already I was disappointed, right? But by this game before we even got to play it. Even the board itself, some of the top of our board is peeling off already. And we've played this game once. So we sit down to play the game, and you've got your little race sheet, and what you do is you upgrade things and you build things and you put them out on the map. And the winner is the person who completes any of the explore, expand, exploit, or exterminate conditions, which is super vague to me. And so I asked, how do we get points? Oh, everything gives you points. I'm like, all right, this is also not helpful. So we sat down, so we started going through things. And initially it's quite fun building stuff up. And I was like, well, why are we building things? Why are we doing any of this? I actually got to a point in the game where I just stopped and I was like, I feel like I'm missing something really obvious here, which is what it is we're supposed to be doing. So then my husband and I thought maybe we just weren't being aggressive enough. Maybe you have to, do lots of fighting or something to make this game exciting. So we went to go and have a battle, and that was even worse. And when you battle, you have a deck of cards, and we both had an identical deck of cards, and some of them counteract the cards in your opponent's hand, and I ended up not winning the battle but getting a bunch of victory points instead. It was really unsatisfactory, and I couldn't understand what was the point of building up all of these things, what we were doing. Man, talk about serious letdown. So we left it at that, and we said maybe we'll try it another time. That's been over a week or two now, and I do want to try it again because I feel like judging a game on its first outing is really unfair. But neither of us have any desire to take it down again. And I'm so disappointed in him because Brian wanted that game for so long. And to kind of have it be like that, and for the price of it as well, is just absolutely shocking. So And of course, now that we bought our copy, no pun included, did their review of Here's a Land, Air and Sea and said everything that I was feeling about that game. If you haven't watched the review and you're thinking about this game, you probably should. Because, Here's a Land, Air and Sea, I found it to be such a letdown. Now, we're going to try it again, and we're going to try to be more aggressive and see if that helps or something. But it's like, all these parts are there, it just feels unfinished. It's like something obvious was missing. So, there you go. So, okay, so we've one game left on the list. Jesus, this has been a very long podcast altogether, hasn't it? And this came yesterday. So, last week my husband was on holiday, and we had planned the most amazing holiday where we were just going to play board games all week. And then on the Friday, we were going to go back to Clonakilty to our favourite happy-go-lucky shop, and they actually do a board games meetup that we normally couldn't attend because of my husband's work hours, but we were going to go because it was on holiday. So Monday, Tuesday, the week was fine. Then I got I got sick on Wednesday, and then I got so stressed out about being sick, I developed like a type of eczema where I have blisters all over my hands and all over my feet. And so I ended up having to be stuck in bed all week watching us waste time. It's possibly the most miserable week I've had. And then my husband had a birthday party on Saturday where everyone played board games, and I couldn't attend because I literally couldn't walk. So I've been really miserable the past week or so because time I have with my husband to me is super, super precious. I can never get enough time with him. So having to give up a whole week like that really just broke me. And so on Sunday, to try and cheer me up a little bit, he brought home a copy of Century Eastern Wonders. So we've had Century Spice Road a good while now. My husband likes it far more than I do. I don't know, I liked it at the start, but then I just get bored of turning cards into cubes. For those of you who don't know anything about Century Spice Road, that's basically what you do. You upgrade cubes into other coloured cubes, and then you trade them in for victory points. And it's okay, lots of people seem to like it. I wasn't mad about it. But I had high hopes that Century Eastern Wonders would kind of, when combined with it, would enhance the game a lot, because I like the idea of the tiles and moving ships. So Century Eastern Wonders is a similar concept, except this time it's got tiles and there are little ships, and you travel around the map turning things into things. And that was definitely much tougher than Century Spice Road, because in Spice Road you get to choose which cards you have that help you build an engine to turn your spices into better spices. In Century Eastern Wonders, you have to travel to basically what would have been the cards to turn spices into better spices. And it's quite difficult. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was infinitely better. I'm very eager to put the two together, but I kind of want to wait till I've kind of burnt Eastern Wonders out a little bit before we combine the two. So would you want both of them? I don't know. I prefer Eastern Wonders straight off the bat, but it's still very early days yet because I haven't been able to play any games really for quite some time. So that was all of the new games acquired. This has been a crazy month. I blame my husband's birthday because it's just an excuse to shove more board games into him. And so it'll be a quiet month next month. I say this every month. I really mean it. I do. But man, yeah, so many games this month and so many awesome games this month. And I really just want to sit down now and play them, more and more than I have been getting to. So the second section here I have is trades. So managed to make a pretty amazing trade this month, and I love trades because trades isn't money and it's new board games. So as mentioned earlier, we bought a copy of Chinatown for a tenner, and we managed to trade away our copy of Chinatown for a tenner. So we traded away Chinatown and a Ticket to Ride map number 5, which I think was the UK one, which we weren't using at all. And in exchange, we acquired Tricarian and Dalgard's Gifts and a copy of Custom Heroes. So yeah, I'm completely over the moon about this trade because, we paid a tenner for Chinatown, and the Ticket to Ride map, well, we're well over Ticket to Ride at this point. I haven't had a chance to play Tricarian yet, and I'm gutted. I've just been too sick to play it. We did play Custom Heroes, however. That was kind of a pleasant surprise. It's kind of the people have been calling it like a ladder game, isn't it? The idea is, I play down a 1 and you have to put like a 2, or then I put a 5 and you put a 7, until you get rid of all the cards in your hand. Except it's got these inserts for the cards like Mystic Veil, where you can enhance your cards each round. But the interesting thing is you enhance the cards, but you don't get to keep them. They go back into a common pool and get re-dealt out. So it's kind of a fun, quick game. It's okay. You know, I don't know if it's anything special, but it certainly was enjoyable. We had a bit of fun with it, so we were happy with that. And of course, Tricarion on my list of things to do, man, it looks so good. That, you know, when you get a game right and you rub your hand across the lid of the box and you're like, that's quality. Yeah, it was basically, it looks and feels like quality. I'm super excited to get to that once my brain feels like functioning again. So those are all our trades from this month. Have you guys made any amazing trades? I think that's one of our best trades we've ever done. Let me know in the comments. I don't know if there are comments on podcasts, but if I put this on my website, you can probably leave comments. So yeah, I would love to hear from people. I really want to hear what your new games were too. Okay, so then we're down to the number of plays. Okay, so we'll do this in reverse order. That is how I usually like to do these things. So let's bring up the app so we can have a look. Okay, because it changed since I typed all this in. Okay, so in 5th place with 2 plays is Terra Mystica. So I realized fairly fast that when I do this number of plays thing, that they always look like crap, because we have a tendency to, we play lots of games once. So, you know, I've had 46 different plays this month. And like the highest play here is, you know, at 5. So it's a bit of a misnomer when I say, you know, I've played Terra Mystica the most this month, or, you know, 5th most this month. Just because we play so many singular games, I think these numbers are quite askew, but the numbers are what they are. So yeah, 2 games Terra Mystica, totally chuffed with that. So in 4th place is Memoir 44 with 3 plays. Yeah, all 3 plays, and I'm currently the victor at this. Very proud of myself with Memoir 44, and I love how quick it is to play. You can pull it out and put it back down in no time at all, and have like a meaty game at the same time. It's a good one. Then in 3rd position is Gloomhaven with 3 plays. Actually, yeah, and one of those was at least with 4 players, which was the first time ever we played Gloomhaven with 4. Definitely drew out the time, let me tell you. I think 3 is a better number. It might have also been we had a new player, so he wasn't quite sure what he was doing. But we had a good time. Also, man, that was like the map with the most mobs we'd ever seen. Shocking stuff. But continue to love Gloomhaven. In 4th place, as always, is Azul. Azul always seems to be second to top on our list of things. Apparently, we've only played it 3 times this month. Kind of wouldn't surprise me, just because this month's gone a bit awry when it comes to board games. Of playing this same board games, because we acquired so many new ones. We've been playing the new ones at least once, you know, to get a feel for them, and then coming back to them later. But you gotta love Azul. There's always room for Azul in your life. And in the top spot is Pyramid Arcade with 6 plays. I'm not surprised by this at all, because as I was talked about it earlier, it's got all these little puzzle games in it, so they're short things. And usually when you take it out to play one game, you'll take it out to play a couple. It's been really great and kind of in the going to bed category, because it is quite puzzly and they're short. And I love the interaction they give you with, you know, your other players. There's something kind of intimate, actually, I think, about Pyramid Arcade. Because everything is so kind of condensed down that you have to kind of feel connected with the other player. And oftentimes the games work around, you know, what the other player's done, so what are you going to do next, and counteracting it and stuff like that. Alright, so that's the number of plays. Finally, wish list. Good lord, my wish list has been decimated. And you know what? I really don't need any more board games right now. I always say this. I put something on the list just, you know, for the sake of it being a list, because without one it would not be one. And that's going to be Spirit Island. Because yet again, that game still fascinates me, and it looks really interesting, and I think it would be really fun to play. And also I've heard it's quite meaty as well. I'm a big fan of meaty. Lisboa has started me on that route of, you know, more heavy Euro games. But no, my wish list needs a rest. So does our wallet. I want enough time to play my games. What a terrible complaint this is, you know. Wow, like third world problems. Cheer me, third world problems. First world problems. Yeah, terrible. Just too much stuff going on. Okay, so that's basically, you know, all the usual stuff. So what's in store for Board Game Inquisition this month? Well, I received a copy of Flick Fleet. You may have seen my unboxing video, and I've been playing that, and I should have a review of that coming up soon. Pretty excited about it. It's a fantastic, like, Dex based ship game in space. I'm not describing it very well right now because my head still isn't fully kind of accurate or here, which is why none of this should be seen on film. And other than that, I'm hoping to do a review for Memoir 44. I think just because it surprised me so much. And it's something I normally wouldn't have picked out for myself. And other than that, I'll be here, playing games, asking questions, and of course, perusing my collection, which seems to be ever growing. If you've got any comments or queries, I'd really love to hear from you, or suggestions for kind of any videos you'd like to see me make. And until next time, have fun, guys. Take care, and let me know how your collection has been changing. Okay, all the best. Bye.